What's up, everybody? This is Political Frenemies. I'm Chris Newton. I'm an academic and former Tory defence policy advisor. With me on the other side of the screen there is Mathew Hulbert, Lib Dem activist and former councillor. Hello, Matthew. How are you?
I'm good, Chris. It's great to be with you. I always like letting our viewers and listeners in on some of the things that goes on behind the screens. We almost didn't think we'd get to air, did we, there for a moment? But
No.
We've worked it all out. We've turned the computer on and off again. We've unplugged the plug and put it back in, and we're just about here. So yes, very grateful to be here. We should also let our wonderful viewers and listeners know that it might be a wee bit shorter than they might prefer. That who knows, a bit less of us. Because I'm a social butterfly on this Friday night, and I'm off to meet a big fan of the pod. And actually, we're having him on in a couple of weeks, which I'm really excited about. That's my friend Andy, who's coming to stay for the weekend. So we're going to be lots of fun and frolics this weekend. So it can't be a long one, I'm afraid. I'm sorry about that.
Okay, yeah, so we better be very quick then. But joining us today, now we did sort of trial something last week, and unfortunately it's not happening this week. So at last minute's notice, we've got a real trooper and a real fan favourite. We've got our special guest today, Tory councillor, commentator, author of this book, a blueprint as well. It's Matthew Goodwin-Freeman. Hello, Matthew.
I'm good, thank you. How are you guys? It's great to be back. I think this is my third time on.
Third time lucky.
It absolutely is your third time, Matthew, and you're very box office. It's like I said on Twitter the other day when we did your announcement. From my point of view, you're wrong on almost everything, but you are box office. So,
that's very kind of you. Thank you. I'll get on and top on everything soon.
And yes, we can't say we're hoping this person will be on next week. So we're hoping we won't see any more than that. But yeah, a little bit of a difficulty this week of the person that I trailed. I did a big trail last week and then it's not happened, so I'm a bit annoyed at me rather than the person. But yeah, so hopefully they'll be on next week. But yeah, so I thought, who can we turn to in an emergency? And I thought, who else but Matthew Goodwin-Freeman?
Well, no, I'm happy to be here. And as always, I think you guys are doing a brilliant job with this pod. So it's great to be on and let's have some fun. We are literally the three of us political frenemies.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the whole point of this is to have fun as well. Yes, we're gonna talk about some serious stuff, but we're going to have some fun as well. And what we're going to be talking about today, well, we'll be talking about the China spice case collapse and all of the rows and debates concerning that. We're going to be talking about the economy and the IMF assessment and what Rachel Reeves have been saying. Then apparently Ed Davey has made some speech or something, which Matthew will.
I must have missed it.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, shocking news that Ed Davey's actually said something for a change, and we can talk about it. But Matthew will talk about that, and then we'll talk about the football, the Maccabi Tel Aviv football fans being banned from this UEFA match. So a packed agenda, not much time. Let's get on with it, shall we? Okay, so our first story, and again, this is a very complex story. I'll very quickly run through what it is, and then we'll discuss it. So, we did talk about it last week very, very quickly, but more has happened since then. But the story is essentially in April 2024. Two people, including a parliamentary researcher, were charged with passing sensitive information to Chinese intelligence between 2021 and 2023. The trial was due to take place last week, but it collapsed. But the case collapsed before it went to trial. Labour said that the decision to prosecute was ultimately a CPS one. It also said that the Deputy National Security Advisor, Matthew Collins, was the only person to deal with the case from the point of view of the government, and blamed the former Tory government for refusing to label China as an enemy, and again another contributory reason they say why the case collapsed. The DPP, the Director for Public Prosecution, said that the government failed to provide key information, while experts questioned whether the enemy designation was even required. And the Tories maintained that during their time in government, or during the period, that they repeatedly called China a threat. So, and there's been other information, the PMQs focused on it. The government also released witness statements. So it's a complete and total mess. And clearly this is a matter of immense importance. It's clearly, an incredibly poor thing that the case collapsed and that we didn't get a trial. So I'll turn to Matthew Goodwin-Freeman first. How much in trouble do you think the government is after this week, after Badenoch at PMQs? And what's the prospect for a resignation, or have we reached the end of the road here?
Well, I mean, Keir Starmer's not expressed full confidence in anyone yet. That tends to be the telltale sign that someone's about to have to make a resignation, because he expressed full confidence in Angela Rayner. She was gone a couple of days later. Expressed full confidence in Peter Mandelson, and he was gone a couple of days later. So, he's not expressed full confidence in anybody yet, which might tell you everything. This is absolutely serious, and we shouldn't... As much as I want to joke about this, this is our national security we're talking about. It's about members of parliament and their offices being infiltrated by a foreign state, by China, and spied upon. And it's happened. It happened. And as much as people want to throw about allegedly or this or that, it happened. We know it happened. And that is serious, because I work in a member of parliament's office. I work for an MP. To think that maybe one of my colleagues, or maybe someone I know, or maybe someone I've had a conversation with, who I talk about, trust, get on with really well, is actually working for a foreign agent, it just blows your mind. It is the thing out of spy movies, and it is happening. And the fact that this case has fallen apart at the last minute absolutely stinks. Whatever Labour say about, under the Tories, no one said this or no one said that, I'm sorry, but that's complete rubbish. And we've seen that because this week Labour published the 3 witness statements, 2 of which are since Labour came into government. And it is those 2 which are apparently not strong enough. I'm really sorry, but if the government wanted to push this through, they could have done so. China is a foreign state. We cannot allow spying on British territory. This is unbelievably serious. And the fact that this case has fallen apart it blows my mind, but I'm hoping that we're able to find whether it's more evidence or other people come forward to reopen this case and to get it into court, because at the end of the day, the 2 individuals who are alleged to have done this have got away. They've got away with this, and that is spying for China on British soil within Parliament. That is so serious, and we cannot allow that to go unchecked.
No, I completely agree with you there, and yes, this is as serious as it gets. You get a lot of stuff on Twitter saying, this is not very important, it's a nothing burger. It's spying, having a hostile state infiltrating Parliament is as serious as it gets. In terms of the government's kind of explanation and this idea that it was just the Deputy National Security Advisor that's dealing with this, and that no one else was being consulted. I mean, firstly, there's the question of whether that will stand up, and obviously evidence hasn't emerged yet. But even if we take that as true, isn't that a shocking indictment of how this government works and how Keir Starmer operates? This is not the first time that Keir Starmer made "it wasn't me" the Shaggy defence. If you don't know who Shaggy was, he was a rapper in the 90s. Google it. Well, actually, don't type Shaggy into Google. You might get something else.
You never know. The Chinese might be watching. You don't type that in there. You never know. But it's a serious
but
point. You make a serious point, and it is the thing of it is always somebody else with this government. It's always someone else. It's always something else. It's never me. Actually, this has fallen apart under a Labour government. It has fallen apart since July 2024. They have to take accountability, right? The Conservative government were more than happy to say that China is an enemy. They are a foreign state. We need to be wary of them. There is evidence and evidence of that speech after speech. And the person who I feel really sorry in all of this is Tom Tugendhat. He was actually one of those spied upon. He was the security minister who was fighting for these convictions. And then it's been flipped on him that now, apparently, not only are these convictions not going to happen, but it was under his watch that something went wrong. It just blows my mind. Blows my mind.
Yeah, Matthew H., what do you make of this?
Yeah, thank you. So, well, a few really quick points, if I can. So, first of all, and I would say this is a Lib Dem, wouldn't I? But a pox on both Labour and the Conservatives' houses. It appears that they both have at least partial blame for this. I agree with you both that it's really, really serious, and that I mean, ultimately, people are innocent until they're proven guilty, and we don't know what the result of this court case might have been. But the fact that it wasn't even able to carry on kind of proceeding is obviously not good at all. I would just make a kind of side point that having seen some of what was apparently leaked, I mean, they weren't very good alleged spies, because, I mean, I've known many a political commentator who have far more intel than these two appear to have from working in the corridors of Parliament. But related to that, though, and regardless of how good or not the intel was that they were allegedly leaking, and this is perhaps something that Matthew can comment on in a second, but it begs the question, doesn't it? How easy is it to infiltrate our Parliament? And that is a really pivotal question. Just a couple more points then. So I thought that Badenoch was okay, but I thought Starmer rather took the wind out of her sails by making the statement at the top of Prime Minister's questions, and also in relation to Parliament. I don't know if either of you two saw it, but I think the following day, when a minister was sent out to bat on this as a result of an urgent question by the Conservative Leicestershire MP, as it happens, Neil O'Brien. The Labour minister, I mean, I felt really quite sorry for him. It was his first time at the dispatch box. He actually said that within the course of the session, and Minister Chris Ward. Yeah. And I've never known someone more deer in the headlights. I mean, it just wasn't. Awful. It just wasn't good. It was really bad. I mean, it was really bad. And at one point, and I appreciate that he perhaps didn't quite hear something, but the way that it looked was that he wasn't quite sure whether it was at the dispatch box or not at the dispatch box. I mean, it was dreadful. It was a dreadful look. And actually, I felt quite sorry for him. It's his first outing. Someone more senior should have been sent to front up there.
Yeah, Matthew Goodwin-Freeman, do you want to come back on that?
Yeah, I wanted to come back on the points about Parliament security. So yeah, absolutely, it's opened up some serious flaws that I think are going to get looked into. So just to give the viewers a bit of an insight, if you want to work in Parliament, you apply to work in an MP's office, you go through vetting, you go through security, they go down all your background and find all the skeletons that are in the closet, and then they decide whether or not you're allowed in the building or not. You have to have a pass, you have to have a PIN, you have to have security vetting, all this sort of stuff. But once you've got that, you're in there. And you can bring visitors in, and you're supposed to be responsible for them and things like that. But there's a massive loophole there. Because if somebody contacted me and said, hey, Matthew, here's £100,000 if you could bring this backpack into Parliament, not through the security, through security scanners that visitors have to. Well, because I'm vetted, that would be allowed. I go a different way. That visitors have to go through, like at an airport, through security. But if you're a pass holder, you go straight through. You're already vetted. So there's a massive flaw there, and that's part of the worry about what's been allowed to happen. Can you just bring in visitors? Can you bring in guests? Can people just get in touch with you? That's what we've got to sort out. And, there's going to be a security review at the end of the day, but that's how it works.
But Matthew, just on that, I mean, I agree with everything you've said there, and my more limited experience of Parliament as a visitor, often someone that's been signed in by a member of the House of Lords, for example, totally adheres to what you've said. But I was sat here thinking while she was saying that it's difficult, isn't it? Because Parliament has to be accessible, right? Parliament has to be accessible and as open as possible to the public who want to be able to go and meet their representatives. And so we can't have a situation whereby that is not any longer the case, and yet we also can't have a situation where alleged spies are able to run roughshod in our parliament.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a real look at what levels of scrutiny staffers go under, and maybe what level of access the security services have to our devices, to our personal devices, to our work devices. I think that's going to be reviewed, because that's how this happened. It was a staffer who was in contact with someone who turned out to be a Chinese spy. That's the story. It wasn't letting them into the building or giving them the documents. It was they were WhatsApping them. That's it. That's literally all it was. They just met with them on WhatsApp and a connection of a connection. I mean, how on earth? We have to sort this, and that is really, really worrying.
Matthew, sorry, just quickly. Matthew, in terms of the point that I made, that from what I've seen of it, the intel looked a bit pathetic. I mean, what about that?
Oh, it was completely wrong.
Yeah.
The intel was completely wrong, because it was saying, I have read through. I mean, it's pretty drab reading, to be honest. I thought it was going to be a lot more juicy. The intel is stuff like, if Rishi won the leadership contest against Liz, he's going to put Tom into the cabinet as the foreign sec, and if Liz was going to win, that her and her team were being briefed about China. It was all rubbish, because firstly, Liz Truss won, so all of the stuff about Rishi and Tom was pointless. And then secondly, Tom never got put into Rishi's cabinet as foreign secretary. And there was something about if Jeremy Hunt was going to run for Conservative leader and lose, he'd drop out and he'd back, which just never happened. I mean, it was interesting, certainly. But yeah, the intelligence was not that good. Maybe the Westminster bubble was a bit too big at that point. I don't know. They need to go listen to other conversations, those spies.
Yeah, and I think your point about how Parliament works and operates. I mean, certainly when I worked there, you get invitations to events, especially for lobbying firm events. You get people approach you. You get emails from people. I mean, that I don't know how you police that or restrict that, but that does have implications for all of that.
Chris, doesn't it just on that? Doesn't it also raise a question? I mean, a couple of weeks ago, I was at Lib Dem conference group. We've had all of the party conferences, and I mean, has to be said. This is more the case for Labour and Tory conferences as the big two at the moment. But and perhaps not so much at Tory conference. I don't think it was the case this year, given the issues that the Tories have had of late, but certainly at Labour conference, you even see this watching the telly. It's packed with people who want to lobby the government on different issues. I'm sure perfectly legally and perfectly appropriately. But the question is also at party conferences, how easy or otherwise would it be for someone with nefarious intentions to get some kind of pass to enable them to speak to all sorts of politicians and ministers and all the rest of it? I can't imagine it would be that difficult.
No, I mean, during my time, I went to all of the defence think tanks events, which which members and things can go to. And there was always this woman who stood up and asked very sort of pro-Russian questions, and she turned out to work for the Lib Dem MP Mike Hancock, and she was the woman who subsequently was accused of being a spy, basically. Right. So it just shows how easy easy it is, and you could be talking to someone, you just don't know who their connections might be. So it's very difficult, but people are going to have to be on their guard.
Yeah.
I think there's plenty more to say about this. In terms of the Tories' position, I've always said that the Tory position on China isn't robust enough, but I think it was sufficiently robust not to prejudice this case. So I don't buy Labour's kind of explanation on that. But unless anybody else has anything to say about this, and I think we better whiz to the next topic.
We've got so much to talk about. Yeah. Absolutely.
So we'll talk about the economy next. And so early in the week, Rachel Reeves blamed Nigel Farage and Brexit, as well as Tory austerity and Liz Truss, for the state of the economy today. This came as the IMF predicted that UK inflation will be the highest in the G7 for the next couple of years. So does Rachel Reeves have a point, or is this another case of it wasn't me, of Labour blaming someone else for their failures, Matthew G?
Well, I mean, let's just be clear. Labour promised that they'd go for growth. And the IMF and the ONS and the BOE and all the other groups and acronyms that there are in the world have shown that we're really not growing. I mean, we got 0.1% in August. Congratulations, Rachel from Accounts, 0.1%. They aren't having this radical change that, we do need to. We've got to get going and we've got to get growing. But to blame it on Brexit, I mean, we're in 2025. The Brexit vote is 9 years ago. I mean, we actually left. It's exactly as you said, Chris. Plucking any excuse other than their own decisions. Now, you could look at the international stage. The world's economy is struggling. China, Germany, America, other countries are struggling too. It's not just us. But Labour have been in charge now for 15 months. And in those 15 months, we've seen tax rises, spending cuts, some more spending cuts get U-turned, U-turns and more U-turns. I mean, there's no surprise I've got the captain flip-flops for crying out loud behind me. That is the state of this Labour government. So no, Rachel from Accounts can blame Brexit, she could blame COVID, she could blame the weather, frankly. The buck has to stop with someone, and it's got to stop with her. I am terrified of this November budget, because where is this money going to come from? She could be the only chancellor in history who came into government with a £20 billion black hole that she can't provide any evidence of, and now apparently it's a £50 billion black hole. So, yeah, who knows? But good luck to other Matthew to try and defend this.
So Rachel,
I'm not a Labour representative.
Well, Rachel Reeves. I mean, one of the things that she says she is looking at tax rises. So I don't know. That might be music to Matthew H's ears. Is it?
Well, so again, a few things to say on this, and again, I'm going to perch myself lovingly on my pedestal and say yet again, a pox on both Labour and Tory houses. This is what I love doing as a Liberal Democrat. So we haven't forgotten Liz Truss. We haven't forgotten the disastrous mini budget and its ramifications still to this day. And so I think the Conservatives do have to take some of the blame for the state of the economy. But, there's also no doubt about it that Labour haven't done very well thus far. And in terms of Brexit, I said on Talk this past weekend, actually, and I clipped it so folks can come watch it on my socials if they really want to. But I said there that, a certain Mr. Nigel Farage, yes, he of Reform UK, Brexit never seems to pass his lips anymore. He hardly ever mentions the word. And you wonder why? I'll tell you why, because it's been an unmitigated disaster. That's why he doesn't want to talk about it. And, we withdrew from our biggest trading bloc, and it's no wonder, is it, that the economy has gone down the Swanee ever since. And I'll just end on this point that, and I sometimes
Well,
make
how's
this
the
point.
Eurozone doing? How's the
So
Eurozone? How France and Germany's doing at the moment?
yeah,
They're
don't
doing
don't
fantastic, aren't they?
don't try and defend us leaving the biggest trading
I'll,
bloc to this country, Chris,
I'll
because
defend it.
it was
I'll
the
defend
biggest
it to
act
the
of
day I die.
it was the biggest act of self harm that a modern Western democracy has done in a very long time.
Would you? Is that the official Lib Dem
No flip
position
flop.
to flip flop?
No flip flopping. No flip flopping from us. We've always been rejoiners. We are rejoiners today, and
so
will be
undemocratic is the Liberal undemocratic because overturning the biggest mandate ever in British history.
Because we'll win the next vote when it takes place.
The Liberal undemocrats is the new name.
Forget it.
Because you want to overturn the biggest democratic mandate in British history. I mean, look, when it comes to Brexit, I will hold my hand up as a proud Brexiteer, as someone who drapes himself in Union Jacks left, right, and centre. We have to take advantage of Brexit. We need to use the benefits of Brexit. Now, I would politely point out to most people in this country, did you get a COVID jab? Yes, you did. Did you get it before most of the world? Yes, you did. Why is that? Because Brexit allowed us to go and make our own deals and get jabs in people's arms quicker. Now, leaving that point aside, the fact is we have got to take advantage of Brexit. Yes, Brexit has had economic impacts on this country, but look at the India deal that we Conservatives negotiated and Labour are taking credit for. Look at the America trade deal that we Conservatives negotiated and Labour are taking credit for. We have been able to strike two massive, massive trade deals. But I want more. There are over 200 countries in the world. We
had a massive deal with the EU.
Right and centre, and that's
what about the deal we had with the European Union? What about
that?
We
had 130-something of a deal. We need to go and strike deals 100%. And also, let me just be very, very clear here to make sure that no liberal, undemocratic mistruths are being said. We rolled over all of the EU deals. We turned them into British law. So we have all of those as well. It's not like we left the EU and went, au revoir, adios. We don't want anything anymore. We carried on those deals. We carried on that trading. We didn't just shut up shop and say no. We said, whilst we love you guys, you're our nearest neighbour, there is a whole world out there that we'd like to do our own deals with instead of only getting a small chunk of the pie that we give to the EU. But hey, we'll chuck millions and millions of pounds there as well. It is a fact. And as much as people want to say it's not, it is.
Yeah. What you two Brexiteers can't get over is the fact that since Brexit, the economy has gone down the Swanee. And I think there's a direct correlation.
So is Brexit responsible for COVID then? Is Brexit responsible for the war in Ukraine? Is Brexit responsible for international gas prices? Like, you can't blame Brexit for everything. Surely the Democrats have learnt this.
And I'm really pleased.
Matthew, on the night that we locked down, I said to you, I don't know, either DM or publicly, I said to you, I don't know whether this is the right thing or not, but regardless, you do realise that the economy is going to be fucked as a result of that, and I think that's an exact quote. But that is the case. If you're going to spend 400 billion, of money that we don't have, it's going to have an impact on the economy.
I'm really pleased. I mean, I don't think much of this chancellor. I think he should be gone. But having said that, I'm really pleased.
I agree there. We agree.
There you go. Thank you. I'm really pleased to hear her stop blaming Brexit. Quite right. About time that someone other than just the Lib Dems did that. And I'm also pleased to hear this week that apparently, and we wait and see for the budget in November, but apparently she must have also been listening to my interviews and reading my writing, because apparently she's going to be introducing some wealth taxes. And good, quite right, absolutely, more of that.
I hope Angela Rayner's looking forward to it. I hope she's looking forward to all the added stamp duty and everything she's going to have to maybe not pay. Who knows? I think the budget is this is the biggest monetary thing. And I'll finish on this because I'm conscious of time. The budget is so serious, right? It is the moment where the government says, this is what we're taking from you, and this is what it's going to pay for. But people are struggling already, and you cannot You cannot run a country by taxing and spending and taxing and spending. And that is exactly what Labour are doing. And we are in a financial doom loop. We are just going round and round. We can't balance the budget, so we need to tax more. People end up giving less taxes because they can't spend as much. And we just go round and round. We cannot do this. And the black hole was apparently £22 billion last year. Now it's apparently £50 billion. It will hit 100 by the time we get to the end of this parliament if this is the route that Labour keep going on. And that is going to come for all of us. This country is so close to going bankrupt, having 2008 all over again. And we have really, really got to wake up for that. We need some serious, radical financial leadership. We don't have that from someone who works
or even the 1970s. Another IMF bailout followed by a winter of discontent.
But it's Brexit's fault, Chris. It's all Brexit's fault.
Indeed it is.
Sorry, Matthew H.
Can I make one final point on this, because then we're going to move on. But I was listening, and this isn't an original point, I was listening to an excellent edition of the New Statesman podcast this week when Andrew Marr was talking about intergenerational unfairness. And I think this needs to be something at the top of Rachel Reeves' mind. And I know that no one dare, because we know that, older folks go out and vote on mass when young people need to start doing that if they want their voices to be heard, because nothing impacts politicians more than the thought of their voters not voting for them. But I gather that, and this will be very brave of Rachel Reeves if she does it, so we wait and see. But I gather that we might see the end of things like the triple lock and all of this gold-plated stuff for pensioners. We might actually see the economy begin to be balanced a little bit more in favour of young people who are wanting to get on the housing ladder and get good jobs and all the rest of it. And I say good. We need more of that. I hope she does it.
And let's move on to the next topic. And shockingly, breaking news, everybody, Ed Davey actually said something this week. So Matthew H., would you like to update everybody in terms of what's going up on Lib Dem
This won't
land?
take too long, hopefully.
Yeah.
Look, can I just say, because Chris always, when it comes, I mean, bless him, God love him. But whenever it comes around to a Lib Dem item, he's always like, "Oh, do we really have to discuss this?" Can I remind him that we are the largest third force in the Commons in a century, and that who knows what parties might be coming on bended knee to Ed Davey to try and form a government after the next election. So we Lib Dems are important, whether you guys like it or not. But yeah, Ed Davey. So myself and Chris have both said over a long period on this podcast and elsewhere that, never mind all of the antics that Ed Davey has been getting up to, all of the pranks and all of that. How about some, set piece speeches from Ed, or to try and carve out a unique space for the Lib Dems? And he must have listened because, sadly, I don't think it got much attention this week, which is another issue for the Lib Dems that I've been droning on ad infinitum about. But nonetheless, he did make it, and the clip was put out on social media, which I, of course, dutifully and loyally retweeted. So he made a speech on energy and the need for more clean energy, etc. And I think he's really trying to carve out a space for us there. Of course, it was something that he did some work on himself when he was Secretary of State for Energy and Climate Change in the coalition government. And I think it's interesting as well for this reason, Chris and Matthew, because the Greens are going in a different direction, right? The Greens have chosen now a position. And in Zach Polanski, they've got someone who is clearly a powerful and charismatic advocate for it. But what I gather, they're going to be speaking less about climate change and this stuff, and it's going to be more about their new socialist positioning. And so I think what Eddie's trying to do for the Lib Dems, and we'll see if it's successful or not, but I think what he's trying to do is to say, for those of you moderate kind of green people who want a party to vote for, who believes in a lot of the same things in terms of what we need to do on climate change and clean energy, etc., you can have a moderate new centrist home in the Liberal Democrats. And I think also, and you two guys need to be aware of this too, that this also appeals to One Nation conservatives who increasingly feel that they no longer have a home in the modern Conservative Party. And so I think actually strategic, and it's not very often I praise Ed Davey, as you guys know. And I got it in the neck again this week from some people in my party saying all you ever do is attack him. So, don't think that this stuff is easy for me, because it's really not. It really isn't. And I could tell you more off air about that. But to be fair to Ed Davey, I think that was very smart position from him. And before you guys just go on the attack, I hope you might concede that from his point of view, it was probably a smart speech to make.
So are you saying that definitely not in terms of the content, but in terms of the strategy of actually doing a set piece speech like Kemi Badenoch, Ed Davey is now listening to the super genius?
The super genius. I think I started calling for that before you did, Chris. I think you said it on one. I think you said it on one episode. So I think actually you were following me. But it may be you that they've listened to.
I was telling him he should stop doing the stuff in the theme parks and that, and do something serious. I think I was saying that before you.
And I of course I agree. Look, I think I'll never attack the fact that he did that in the election. I think it worked for him. I think it got us some attention. And look, we got 72. We got 72 seats. That's the largest number in the modern history of our party that we've ever had. It's more than Charles Kent. It's more than. It's more than. Oh, well, but I think a mixture of that. I thought his party political broadcast was also very, very good. The best that I'd seen up to that point, talking about his caring responsibilities. Now, do I think that these daft things should have carried on after the election? No, I clearly don't. But again, I'm told by some fellow Lib Dems that, Matthew, you're just too involved in the Lib Dems. You think that everything should be really serious, when actually most voters only get to see a clip on the TV, and it may be that would appeal to them. So I don't know whether I'm right or wrong on these things. But do I think that, Nigel Farage this summer, to be fair to him, which I really would rather not have to be, but I will be, he did a very smart thing this summer. Instead of going off on his summer holidays, because, why does he have to when he can do that in Parliament's time, right? But he did a series of set speeches every Monday that dominated the media agenda all throughout the summer. None of the other parties, including even the government, really got a look in. And I was wondering, why are the Lib Dems not doing that? I know that we're not going to get the same attention for doing it, because we're just not. But why is Ed Davey not making, set-piece speeches to try and carve out some unique space for the Lib Dems? So I hope that this is the first of many that he is going to make, because even if it only gets clipped up for our own socials, at least it's us saying something serious about serious issues.
Matthew G, anything there?
Yeah, I think the Matthews are right here, because Ed Davey has built up a reputation of, hobble horsing around and jet skiing the conference and all these sorts of things to get the attention onto the Lib Dems. They then won 72 seats. Absolutely nothing to do with Ed Davey, and 100% to do with people's frustration and fed up with the Conservative Party. Right. Nothing to do with Ed Davey. And then, now, with seeing the threat from Zach Hypnotits Polanski, that was my impression of him trying to do, you never know. Now Ed Davies realised, oh God, I need to man up here. I need to be serious. I've got to come up with some proper policies. And I'm glad I have said this. If I was advising Ed Davey, the world in which that happens, where I'm advising Ed Davey, I would have said to him, right, general election, you have now got a massive opportunity as the 72 seats in Parliament. Be serious. Talk about these serious issues. And he talks about social care a lot. Good, nice issue that the Lib Dems can sort of try and make their niche and focus on. But we need those policies and all the other agenda as well. So I agree. He's got to do more of it. I will just politely say, nobody paid attention and no one has any idea what the heck he talked about, other than those who are already interested. And I'm definitely not the target demographic. Absolutely not. I can't see a world ever in which I would end up in the Liberal Undemocratics. But, hopefully someone out there paid attention. But as you said, it's some comms for them to use. It's more serious politician stuff. I like it, because it was getting to that point where actually, Ed Davey, no offence, but your reputation as a hobble horser is now taking over your future prime ministerial, ambitions. Maybe it's time to move for a more serious politician. So, who knows?
And also, can I just point out that an email has been sent out to party members by one of our senior MPs. In fact, it's Lisa Smart, who was our Home Affairs spokesperson, and is now our Cabinet Office person and partly responsible for strategy. And even though it's something I personally actually disagree with, I can again see why strategically the party has done this. And it's saying don't build on Greenbelt. Now, my view is actually we need houses more than we need some of our Greenbelt in this country. But again, I can see that they're wanting to appeal to, small C conservative voters who don't necessarily want to see housing in their area. Again, I completely disagree with this, but there we are. The party isn't aiming at me. They've already got me voting for them. They're wanting new voters. And so, I do think we're starting to see a trend here of the party wanting to appeal to kind of Greens who are more moderate, and also conservatives who aren't, going off on the right-wing trajectory that the Tory party appears to be going on. And so, I have to say, as much as I personally, I guess it's not my kind of liberal democracy. I'm more kind of Charles Kennedy social justice person, but I can understand why the party is doing the strategy that it's doing.
But they need to appeal to somebody because, as we said, their membership numbers, it was 120,000 5 years ago. It's down to 60,000 now. I think it'll be 30,000 by the end of the decade. Got to appeal to somebody. As I said, maybe Zach Hypnotits Polanski might be interested if Ed Undemocratic Davey. I'm trying to think of all these different nicknames for them. But, maybe they could form a coalition or something. Who knows? A Green Lib Dem coalition. Oh, what a world.
Dear God, that's... I don't want to think about that. Okay, right. I think we better just move on to the last topic, and we're not going to do this justice at all. But I think we do have to mention it because it has dominated the news on the day of recording, which is the Friday. So basically, West Midlands Police has effectively banned Maccabi Tel Aviv fans from the 6th of November UEFA Europa League match against Aston Villa, citing it as a high-risk event. The decision drew fierce political backlash and concerns that our institutions simply cannot protect Israeli visitors and Jewish people. So I'll just say reactions to this and what does this say about Britain in 2025? I'll turn to Matthew G first.
I mean, the fact that you might not be able to go and watch a football game because people are worried, A, for safety, but B, for policing and political correctness. I'm quite worried. This is a policing failure, right? This is a policing failure. The police have to organise with the council, do risk assessments, and keep people safe at football games. But the police are able to keep hundreds of thousands of people safe every Saturday down in the centre of London for these hate marches. But they can't keep, at maximum, is an allocation of 2,000 fans who are going to be travelling over, that we know where they're going to be, we know who they are, because they will have had to go over, get visas, come over to here, buy their tickets. We know who these people are, and the police are saying we can't keep them safe. That is a crisis. How on earth can we let our police give in to effective lawlessness, a fear of lawlessness? We cannot let that happen. And it just goes to show we need to clamp down and frankly stop these hate marches on the weekends and free that police resource up to elsewhere in the country. And that's the worry. My worry is the fact that if this doesn't get overturned, which my sources are saying to me the government is going to intervene and is going to force this to be, back down on, and the fans are going to be allowed to turn up. If this does not happen, though, it is a very start of a very slippery slope, in my opinion. And it is a failure of policing, nothing more.
No, and I 100% echo all of that. Matthew H, anything to say?
I mean, I guess I'd just ask the question, and I ask it very carefully because I don't disagree with what either of you have said particularly. But I mean, either policing is independent of politics or it's not, and this is a policing decision by West Midlands Police. And we either think that politicians should be interfering in policing, or we think we don't. But you can't have it both ways. You can't say most of the time, when it's things you agree with, that we don't want politicians interfering. And then when the police do something which you disagree with, say, well, of course, it's the politicians who should be making the decision. The fact is that the police are independent of politics in terms of the frontline operational matters, and that is surely the way that it should be, and they have made this decision.
But why should no one be allowed to go to a football game based on where they come from? It is all. This is all. Let's call a spade a spade. This is down to anti-Semitism. That's all this is. This is down to the war in Gaza. If this was not happening, then these fans would come over, they'd have the football game, and they go home, and it would be absolutely fine. It is down to what is happening in the world right now and happening in the Middle East. It is because the police fear that these fans are going to be coming over into a very, very densely Muslim population area, and it's going to cause trouble. And there is pure anti-Semitism out on the streets in Britain right now. There is pure anti-Semitism. If anybody dare say, support, or even look Jewish or Israeli, they get attacked. It is pure anti-Semitism, and that is what this is. It is the failure for the last 2 years, with these hate marches, with anti-Semitic attacks going on, of a government to clamp down on it, that has allowed anti-Semitism to fester and fester, to allow this division to fester, and now we get to a point where the fear that Jewish fans are going to come over to Britain and play in a heavily Muslim area, the fear of that causing unrest means actually it's better to just not let them come instead of police it and clamp down on any unrest and any anti-Semitism. That is what we've allowed to happen in Britain. We have let anti-Semitism go rife, and I know from Jewish friends, Jewish colleagues, Jewish constituents who now do not feel safe walking around London, walking around at all, showing any sort of Israeli support. I even, the other day, getting on the train, I had a pin badge on my jacket, which was the UK flag and the Israel flag, which I got given after October the 7th, and it was just on my jacket. I, getting onto the train, felt so uncomfortable with the looks, stares, and the attitude of people around me, based on having that pin on my jacket, I think, that I took it off quickly and put it in my pocket quietly. And I'm not Jewish, I have no Jewish connections in my family, I didn't feel safe. And that's me, purely for showing one badge. I think this is unacceptable, and I think this is a stain on party politics aside, I think this is a stain on what we've allowed Britain to become. Britain is now a hotbed of anti-Semitism, and for some reason, we're not going to no one clamps down on it. I don't understand, and that is our fault.
Yeah, Keir Starmer keeps saying that, but then we see every week, pretty much every day, sort of rampant anti-Semitism on the streets. But I think because Matthew has to go, I think we better end it there. We've kept broadly on time, so all the years of my university teaching sort of came in handy there, so having to keep to time. Matthew, do you want to? Thank you, Matthew. Do you want to say a little bit at the end?
Yeah, well, first of all, can we thank Matthew GF? So good as always absolute box office, as I always say. So I'm sure we'll have you on again soon, Matthew. So thanks so much.
Yeah, definitely.
And yeah, folks, please do all the internet things. Please like, please subscribe. Our numbers are ticking up. People especially love the shorts. I don't quite know what that says about us, but yeah, our video shorts that Chris does, mostly because of the reaction shots, I think. People really love those. But yeah, do tell the folks that you know about it. Do follow us on Twitter at Political Frenemies. And I guess we'll see people next week, Chris.
Yeah, hope you have a good week, and we will see you on the next episode of Political Frenemies. Goodbye.